And we are back in the saddle. Another fasting week, heading to 74 hours or 96 hours. But as we do, 72 hours is where we typically go. And right now, I am a little over 54 hours in this week's fast. And I'm excited about it. Here, I'm doing a review of fasting. We're using fasting as that amazing tool that sets us up for success in reversing our diabetes. Hey, if you're new to me, I'm Dr. Dwain Woode. That's Wood with an E. The E stands for endocrinology. Here on the channel, I educate, I empower, and I encourage you to take charge of your health and your life, avoid complications, and go to the next level. And in this year, new year, new you, I'm talking to adults with type 2 diabetes who want to put their diabetes in remission, who want to reverse their diabetes and get off of medication. Hey, if you're new to me, go ahead and put new in the comments as well, because I'd love to welcome you with a hand clap and some music and let you know that I'm happy that you are here. If you have questions, put those in the chat and put a Q in front of it so I know that that's a question that we need to get to. And I'm looking forward to all of your questions wherever you're joining us from, whether it's Instagram, LinkedIn, if you're on Twitch, if you are on YouTube, if you are on Facebook, if you are on any platform, with thank you for joining us on this space. And you know how we do. If you've been with us, you know that we will do our check-in here in just a little while. We'll take a look at what our blood sugars are. Off to the side, I've got my glucose monitors. I got my glucose monitors here that we'll take a look at. I've got my Keto Mojo and of course my Contour. And we got our strips. And then right below me, that is my, what is it? That's my Dexcom Clarity Report. And you can join me and watch that here in just a minute. We'll see how that goes. If you're fasting, go ahead and put fasting in the comments. If you've just come out of a fast, put out. And if you are heading into a fast, I want you to put heading or going, right? Going if you're going into a fast, fasting if you're currently fasting, and if you just came out of a fast, I want you to put out, right? So that we know what's going on, what's happening as we move through this space. So, we're going to take a look at my blood sugars here in just a minute. But as I move through the fasting space, as I move through this area where I am talking to more and more people, in the office, we have our shows. They're playing in the lobby. They're playing in the room, and people are asking me more and more about fasting. And one of the things I find is that there are some misconceptions about fasting. And so here in this space, right, every week we go through a complete fast, letting you how to prepare for a fast, how to get through a fast successfully, and then of course how to break a fast. If you've not done so, we've been working through our COPE model, COPE. That is a mechanism that we are using to help us avoid and get over some of those triggers that we will sometimes run into. Remember those triggers: habits, emotions, access, and taste, the food triggers? Yeah, so the COPE model helps us do that. And if you've not done so, you want to make sure that you get out there and you watch that. We've done 4 shows now I believe on the COPE model, and using it to set ourselves up for success. And of course, I was trying to pull up something here. Just a minute, let me change the screen as I do that because it shows up. And so we're in the space of discussing COPE, COP. So clarify, observe, pause, process, pick, and execute. And all of those shows that we've done, I've created a playlist, which is what I was looking for. Here it is. That talks about the COPE model, that gives you information on how we can avoid that amygdala hijack that happens when our emotions gets too high and we start to go down the path that the amygdala wants to tell us. It's kind of like you see that tiger and you want to run because the amygdala's job is to protect us. But the prefrontal cortex is the reasoning part. It says, hey, yes, there is a tiger, but the tiger is in a zoo, so we don't have to run. And so that is how to deal with emotional eating. How to deal with emotional eating. Make sure you get out there and you watch that as we move through the space of becoming more metabolically healthy and setting ourselves up for success as we reverse our diabetes. All right, so let's go ahead and let's take a look at blood sugars. And here is my Libre. This is my Libre. It's a Libre 3. I think this is a plus. Let's see, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. Yeah, this is a Libre Plus. I was counting at the bottom. It says 9 days, and then 6 of those things are blacked out. So that means it's a 15-day monitor. So anyway, so my Libre says that my blood sugar is 74. And you'll see there in the green, the darker shaded green area, that you see that most of my blood sugar is represented by that squiggly line. Most of the blood sugars have been below 100 for the last 12 hours. Now we'll take a look. Let's see. Let's go over to our Dexcom, and you'll see this one I can actually put my finger on, and you'll see the numbers. So 105, 106, 100, and down into the 90s, 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 into the 80s. And so this has had me or shown that my blood sugars have been 80s to low 100s for most of the last 12 hours. If I go to 24 hours, you'll see that just like we talked about just a minute ago, those 80s or 90s, and then right around 9 a.m. we had a spike up to the 1-teens, as high as 118, I think it was the highest, yeah, 118, and then over the course of the night earlier, right? So this is about midnight right there, 1 a.m. And then we go through and we dropped and we came up. And this dropping that you see right here, this is probably where my monitor lost connection, I believe. And then back into the low 100s, 1-teens. But for the most part, it's for that whole 24-hour period, then my blood sugars actually have been below 120s, which is where I want it, and which is where I usually tell patients that I want them to be. Okay, so that's what my continuous monitors are showing. Let's go ahead and take a look at what my monitors over here are showing. And so here I have a Keto Mojo, which gives me blood sugar and ketones, and then of course this guy gives me blood sugar. Let's go ahead and get a strip into the contour, and then let's go ahead and open these guys up. And so this is the blood sugar strip, and this is the ketone, and I'm going to open up both of them. And if you've been following me, you know that sometimes we have some challenges getting that second drop of blood for the ketones, or the blood dries before we can get there. So I'm going to go ahead and open this so that it's ready. So it's waiting and ready for us to get it in. All right, so I'm going to hold that off to the side right here and go to my little handy dandy holder and grab a lancet. And these are the ones that I've become more, I have an affinity for these. And this is just a twist off, right? So let's see, let's get this view for a minute. Get this stuff off here. And this is just a twist off. You grab this and you turn. And once you do that, then you'll see here there's a little, hopefully you can see that, there's a little needle that's right there. And I don't use the lancing device. I just use my finger and the lancet. And so what I do is just find a finger, and I usually tend to use the same one. If you get a close up of my finger, you can actually see where I prick my fingers. So anyway, so I just use this and find a spot. Let's right about here. And this one tends to hurt a little bit more when you do it this way. But I don't like the devices. Okay, so let's see if we got a drop of blood. Not a great drop of blood, so we're gonna have to be quick in our use of this. Let's see if that's enough. Yep, that's enough. And then let's go ahead and get a drop here. Okay, so 88 for the Keto Mojo, and while that's doing, I'm gonna keep milking so I don't have to stick myself. And 84 for the contour. Let's get this out and get the strip for the ketones in. before that blood dries. And let's go ahead and get that started. Okay. And so we'll see what that is here in just a little bit. Of course, I'm going to tease you guys because I'm not going to show you exactly what it is. You have to stay around, and we'll see what that looks like. Okay, all right. So let me move this off because sometimes I change the scenes, and you get to see that when I don't want you to see it yet. All right. So we're talking about fasting, and let's kind of lay some groundwork and kind of talk a little bit about the backstory. So as we are working, New Year, New You, as we're working to put our diabetes in remission, as we're working to reverse diabetes, there are several tools that we've learned. And the several tools, one of the tools we've learned is we figured out our why. Why do we want to do the things we want to do? Why do we want to be healthy? Why do we want to reverse our diabetes? Why do we want to be metabolically well? Right. So all of those things come in the why. We learned about emotional intelligence and being aware of our emotions, the emotions of people around us, and how to use that for our benefit. We learned how to create a menu. What is the quote unquote best type of meal that we should be eating, right? We learned about that. Balanced bites. Balanced bites is the concept that's coming out of that. Balanced bites. We balance our blood sugars with balanced bites. We eat a certain food. Every bite counts, right? Balanced bites. Anyway, so all of those tools are tools that we've learned. But one of the most fascinating parts of those, fascinating tools that we've learned, is the tool of fasting. And so we are using fasting in this space to help as one of the things we can do to reverse our diabetes. Right? Notice it is a tool. We pick it up, we put it down when we need it, and so forth. If you are not diabetic, if you're not diabetic and you're watching, you found us for the first time, you watched one of the videos, somebody told you to come, and you're thinking, wait a minute, I am not diabetic, so this stuff doesn't work for me. I want you to notice at the bottom of the screen there, those are other metabolic diseases. So diabetes is the prototypic metabolic disease, but high blood pressure, high cholesterol, fatty liver, non-alcoholic fatty liver disease, polycystic ovarian syndrome, metabolic syndrome, all of those are spectrums. And the things that we do, right, the tools that we learn to treat diabetes, because it is a prototypic disease, will help with those as well. So if you're interested in lower blood sugar, lower blood pressure, lower cholesterol, get over your fatty liver, all of those things, the tools that we're learning are tools that you could put in place that you can use that will help you improve your wellness and improve your health. So just because you're not diabetic doesn't mean that this does not work for you. Make sure you pay attention and you hang in there with us, okay? So those are the tools. And so as we have learned the tools, fasting being a powerful one, fasting allows us to hit all of the pillars of reversing diabetes. There are three: decrease insulin, suppress the appetite, and reduce sugar. So when we are fasting, we're reducing sugar because we're not taking anything in. When we reduce sugar, that's pillar number 3. When we reduce the sugar in our body does not have to make as much insulin, or we don't have to take as much insulin from outside, or we don't have to take as much medications to manage sugar. So our insulin level goes down. So our body is becoming more insulin sensitive. And because insulin is an appetite stimulator, when the insulin goes down, our appetite gets better. So notice what happens. We fast, and every one of the pillars is attacked by the fasting. That's why I love fasting, because it's one of those amazing tools that does that. And not just that, it does a bunch of other things. If you have not done so, our check-in that we did last night, yesterday, is about some of the benefits of fasting. And of course, we did several shows where we talk about the benefits of fasting. So go back and make sure you watch and get through some of those. All right. But as we fast, we have a tremendous benefit in our metabolic health beyond sugar, beyond blood pressure, beyond cholesterol. And we're going to talk a little bit about some of those today as we go through our check-in. And so because we're doing fasting as one of the tools, we want to know, how do we fast successfully? And that's what we do. We talk about various components of fasting in this space as we do our review of fasting. And so people want to know, how do they prepare for a fast? how do they get through a fast successfully, and then of course how do they break a fast at the end and make sure that they're setting themselves up for success in the long term. And so that's what we're doing here. Anytime you want to change anything, anytime you want to adjust something, anytime you want to find out if something's working, you want to do a check-in. And so every time I come on, I do a check-in in the fasting space to let you know how I'm doing, how I'm feeling. There are three components that I talk about: how I'm doing physically, mentally, and emotionally. These are the spaces where people tend to have problems. These are the places where they tend to get hang-ups. And so if you are checking in with yourself on a continuous basis, then you will see patterns that begin to develop. You'll see places where you can pivot, where you can change, and where you can improve the process so that your metabolic health gets so much better and we reverse our diabetes. All right, so physically. So when people talk about physical, how they're feeling in terms of fasting, this tends to be in relation to energy level, right? Because there is a dip that we sometimes will feel in our energy level as the body transitions from burning one energy source to burning another. We'll talk about that here in just a little while. But often it is more pronounced, that dip, when we're not well rested. And so for me right now, I am beginning to feel tired, right? Because I've been up and been running, and yeah, I'm feeling tired. I can tell that I need to go to sleep, right? And so so I'm not feeling drained, as in no energy. What I'm feeling fatigued is from just being up and working and so forth. Palpitations, lightheadedness, dizziness, sweatiness, all those are things that will come, and they tend to be things related to either low blood sugar, so people who are on medication that are lowering their blood sugars, or tend to be from if we're not hydrated. You see me drinking, right? Because I'm trying to remain hydrated, because I know if I don't, then I can get myself into trouble. Lightheaded, dizziness, sweaty, and so forth. If you get dehydrated, then your blood volume goes down. If the blood volume goes down, then your body has to find a way to keep supplying the same amount of oxygen, the same amount of energy, the same amount of nutrients to your tissues. And so in order to do that, if the blood volume, if the amount of carrying capacity goes down, then the heart rate speeds up. So the blood just pumps faster. So we get the same amount, but it's coming in faster and faster chunk. Okay? So right now, I'm not feeling any of that, but like I said, I'm feeling tired, feeling fatigued. I gotta go to sleep soon. And then mentally, so mental goes along with physical, because if you're tired, if you're not right there, then your mentation sometimes will show the effects of that. Right now, I'm not feeling cloudy. I'm not feeling foggy. I am able to tell, because sometimes you know yourself, right? You tell when you're, yeah, I'm feeling a little tired, and I can feel it. I'm almost like I'm hearing myself talk, right? Like I'm outside of my body hearing myself talk. So that says, yeah, I'm starting to get to that point. So physically, mentally, I'm feeling good, right? Because I'm here talking with you. I'm clear about what I need to do. I am clear that I need to get some rest here in just a little while. And then emotionally, I'm excited because we're going to be doing some things with our family. Come up here over the next couple of days, and so I'm excited about that. I am anticipating having some family joy. Okay. And so I'm not feeling anxious. I'm not feeling frustrated, depressed. Right now, just feeling pretty elated. So physically, mentally, and emotionally, like I said, anytime you want to change anything, anytime you want to know if something is working, you should be doing an assessment. How are you feeling? Doing a check-in with yourself. All right. So that's where we are. We've looked at my blood sugars, and so let's hop over and let's go ahead and let's begin talking about our fasting. And so really, we're talking about fasting review. what you need to know. What are the essential things that you need to know as we are fasting? When we fast, I tend to break fasting up into three separate components or three areas. The first is preparing for the fast. The next is actually getting through the fast. And then finally, how do we end the fast? How do we break the fast? So let's hop over and let's talk about how do we prepare for the fast. And the first question really is why? Why do we think we want to prepare for the fast, or why should we prepare for the fast? All right. What are the keys to preparing for the fast? So when we prepare for the fast, we are preparing the body so that we don't end up getting into kind of a shock, right? Because fasting is not just about not eating. Fasting is a physical, it is a mental, and it is an emotional task. And so if we just jump into it, like when we first introduced fasting, there were a lot of people who, and I was doing, I started out doing a 72-hour, or I had been doing intermittent fasting, but as we approached it here and started talking about it on the show, I was at that point had started doing a 72-hour fast. And there were many people who came and they said, okay, I'm going to do a fast, and they jumped into 72 hours. Well, and they did it like day one, right? So, oh yeah, let's go fast. And some people succeeded, but for a lot of folks, it was tough because it's not just about not eating. It's preparing the mind, it's preparing the body, and it's getting the emotions into where they need to be so that you set yourself up for fasting success. All right? So preparing the body, what it does is it reduces the shock. It minimizes common side effects. So things like headaches, fatigue, irritability. That's a big one, right? Because if you're not aware and you start fasting, then sometimes people become very irritable. I talked to somebody, was it last week? And they were telling me that their family members were telling them, no, you got to start eating. Right? You got to start eating because they were irritable. Okay, and when we prepare, it helps to maintain focus on our purpose and our goal. Because what we're doing is we are in the process of preparing our mind, preparing our brain, letting our system know, okay, this is what we're doing. We're going to be fasting for 24 hours. We're going to be fasting for 36 hours. We're going to be whatever the number of hours. You are preparing that. You're visualizing completing the task. You are mindful of how you feel. What emotions are kind of swirling around with you right now? Was there something that was going on prior to getting into the fast? Are you anticipating when you get out of the fast that there's something going on? Is there a special event? Is there some strenuous thing that's going to be happening during the fast? So you're thinking about all of that, and you are getting yourself ready to get through the fast so that you're setting yourself up for the maximum possibility of success. Right? Because we want you to be successful as we're moving through the space to reverse our diabetes. The next thing is mental preparation, right? So we just talked a little bit about just why we need to prepare. So when we prepare mentally, we're setting clear goals, understanding why we're fasting. And this goes back to creating our why, right? Figuring out what our why is. Why are you doing the things that you're doing? Because if you have a strong why, if you know your why, when you are in the fast and sometimes things can get difficult, you fall back on the fast and now you say, okay, this is the reason I'm doing it. When I did my check-in yesterday, I talked about the fact that I was heading into the final stretches of the fast, and I came home and my wife was cooking and the aromas just kind of hit me. And my brain says, hey, let's go eat. Right? But it wasn't time for me to eat yet. And so I took a pause, I breathed, right? Used our COPE model. So I breathed, and then I began thinking about the benefits of fasting and my why. Why am I doing this? And that was able to kind of get me through that process. So understanding your why. Visualize your success. Right? See what happens. See what you look like. See what's going on. Smell, taste, hear what the situation is like when you complete the fast. Right? Create for your mind what that looks like. So when we do that, the mind is more likely, the body is more likely to take us in that direction. It will find reasons to help support what we're telling it. But if we go the other direction, it will find reasons to help us break the fast early. Okay? So what you want to do is you want to visualize it. Spend your time putting as much detail into that. What are you going to, who is going to be around with you? What are you going to feel like? What is the goal? What do your blood sugars look like? What's your weight? What are your ketones when we get to the end of the fast? And then, of course, what am I going to break the fast with? That's an interesting one. I throw that in there. Don't spend too much time thinking about that one because that can actually derail you. Okay? Educate yourself. So which fast are you going to do? Are you going to do a 12 and 12, a 16-8? Are you going to do one meal a day? Are you going to do alternate day fasting, a 5 and 2, a 24-hour extended fast, a 72-hour? What are you going to do? Educate yourself on that fasting method and how to do it and what the benefits are that you should have. Are there tips or tricks on how to do that particular type of fast? Right? So you want to make sure that you're doing that so you have the best possibility of success if you are going through that process. And then to help you get through the fast successfully, I love affirmations. Affirmations are these sayings, they're positive words that we say to ourselves that help push us through, help support, and kind of help us keep in mind the things that we are telling ourselves, the story of who we are. The affirmations help to solidify and lay a foundation for what we're doing. When we tell ourselves that we fast, that's what we do. When we tell ourselves that we are improving our metabolic health, that's what we do. When we tell ourselves that we are a person that has an A1C of 5.7 or lower, that's what we do. The body creates the circumstances. It tries to find things, find ways to take us to that. So affirmations, along with the visualization, along with understanding my why, when I put all that together, now I have a package. I have a powerhouse of support that helps take me in the direction of being successful. Okay, so affirmations. They help to motivate you during the fast. So we're preparing ourselves mentally as well. And then nutritional preparation. So the way that well, let me back up. Fasting is not always about what I'm doing during the fast. If I've done a good job of getting my nutrition where it needs to be during my non-fasting days, when I get into the fast, I'm more likely to be success because I'm not experiencing deficiencies. I'm not experiencing significant hunger. We'll talk about that in a minute. But I've set myself up by my eating during the non-fasting times, my eating window. I've set myself up for success during the fast. Okay? So one, we want to reduce carbs and sugar as we're coming to the fast. Because if you come into the fast with those carbs, with those sugars, you've had highly processed foods, then you're stimulating your insulin level, right? So you come into fast with higher insulin levels. When that happens, you come into the fast with a stimulated appetite. And so those first several hours, maybe that first day, if you're doing a longer fast, those can be difficult, not because the fasting is a problem, but because our appetites have been stimulated by the stuff that we ate during the non-fasting time, right? During the eating window. So you want to set yourself up for success by decreasing the carbs, decreasing the high sugar as you're moving into the fasting space. And then increase the fats. Your healthy fats. Fats help to satiate you, help you feel fuller longer. It helps to blunt the absorption of sugar for the things that we've eaten prior to coming into the fast. So having healthy fats in our system when we come into the fast helps us. The fat's gonna be digested and we're okay. But the first several hours, right? And we'll talk about the breakdown of those hours. If we do a good job of healthy fat and decreasing our carbs, then we set ourselves up for success in the fast. Okay? And then we want to increase our water and electrolytes. I just mentioned a little while ago that if you are not hydrated, you can have lots of different issues, right? So palpitations, feeling like your heart's racing, skipping a beat, fuzzy thinking, feeling woozy. And for me, if I'm not hydrated, I actually feel nauseated. right? So yeah, I can tell. And this week I actually had a headache. By the way, let me go back and let's add that. So I had a headache this week, and my wife said, "Hey, are you drinking enough?" And I turns out I wasn't. So remain hydrated. Hydration and electrolytes. Make sure you're taking taking in enough, and then gradually reduce your eating window for the fast. So don't just say, okay, I'm fasting 72 hours or 48 hours. Start small. Start small. So people who started fasting with us, one of our goals was for you to get to 24 hours once a week. We didn't start at 24 hours. We started wherever you were. So if you fasted for 8 hours because you were sleeping for 8 hours, then we asked you to add 2 hours to that. So go from 8 hours to 10 hours. So you're fasting for 10 hours and you're eating during the next 14 hours. And then when you're able to do 10 hours, then go to 12 hours. Now you're doing what? 12 and 12. And then extend that to 14. And now you're doing 10 and 12. And then extend that to 16. Now you're doing 16 or 8 and 16. Notice what's happening. We're making the fasting window longer and longer and longer, and the eating window is getting shorter and shorter and shorter. Okay? So we want to do that as we're getting to the fast or getting close to the fast, so that you set yourself up for success. And then hydration, electrolytes, we talked about that a little while ago, but make sure you're drinking lots of water before the fast begins. Because when we are in the fast, because we're not thinking about eating, we tend to also not think about drinking. So we're going to get a little dehydrated during the fast, and we want to short circuit that, or we want to get ahead of that, if you will, by drinking lots of water, increasing our fluid intake prior to the fast, leading up to the fast. And then ensure that you have adequate electrolytes. There are a lot of products on the market. I have a couple of things here. Our community members have shared things that they've used in the past, but just make sure you're getting good hydration and you're also keeping your electrolytes where they need to be so that you can be successful. Herbal teas, green teas, chamomile tea, or peppermint are good for hydration leading up to the fast, and they also calm you. Right? They calm you as you're moving into the fasting space. The fast is a stress on the body, so the first little while of fasting, and particularly if you're not used to fasting, that can cause your body to be in a little bit of a stress, and the teas and so forth will help to relax and calm you. And then physical preparation. So you want to engage in light physical activity as you're moving into the fast. You don't want to do a lot of strenuous activity, because unless you're doing fasting workouts. That's a whole nother conversation that we've not talked about, but we've mentioned it several times. We'll come back and do a show about that. But fasting workouts, then of course you're doing strength training. But for fasting, if we're not doing that, then we want you to do light exercises as you're moving towards the fasting space. And then reduce the strenuous exercise, what I just said. You want to aim for quality sleep as well. So we're doing physical preparation. As I mentioned, if you're not sleeping well, if you go into a fast very tired, then the fast is going to be very difficult for you. And then you want to begin reducing your caffeine or energy drinks, because those will cause you to have withdrawal symptoms, and those will show up in interesting spaces, interesting places, and interesting ways. Right? All right. And then your environment. You want to make sure that your environment is conducive for fasting. Because if you got candy and cookies and the stuff that trigger you all around you, then that sets you up for a difficult fast, right? So make sure you're cleaning out the temptations, right? Remove unhealthy snacks and processed foods and high carb food from your environment. Then create a fasting friendly zone. Keep your kitchen stocked with healthy teas and water and fasting supplementation drinks. All of those will help you get through the fast more successfully, and you don't have to think about it. You don't have to make a decision. There's no decision fatigue. It's already there. You don't have to go buy it, and you're more likely to use it. So prepare distractions. Set some things up so that you are keeping yourself distracted during the fasting period. I tell people the day that you're home just hanging out by yourself with nothing to do is not the day to fast. Right? Because you're already setting yourself up for difficulty. So the day to fast is probably a day where you're busy, where you don't even have time to sit down, you're at work. Those are good days to fast because you get through them, and by the time you get to the end of the day, or we get to the end of the fast, the day has been amazing because you've been so busy. Okay, so plan things to distract yourself. Walking, meditation. You want to distract yourself from hunger. Okay, and then emotional and social preparation. Once again, it's not just about not eating. It is a social or emotional. It's a mental thing. And so you want to start by telling people around you, your family, your friends, that you are fasting. Let them know so that they're not planning things during the time you're fasting. And your body, your brain is going to take the path of least resistance. So if it's a decision between eating or not being connected to the family, you're going to eat, right? Because we're built to belong. And so our bodies, our minds are going to say, hey, let's eat it. We can start back tomorrow. So tell family and friends what's going on so that they don't inadvertently cause some problems for you. Okay. Identify emotional triggers. What are the things in your space, in your life, that are triggers for you? And be aware of those. Any emotional triggers that you have can lead you to break the fast. We talked about the heat model, emotions. Anytime the emotions get strong, they can overpower, they can plow through the decisions that we've made to eat better, to be healthier, right? So you want to make sure that you're aware of those. Are there things right now in your space that potentially can trigger you? And let's make a plan for how we're going to deal with it. We want to create accountability. So tell your accountability partners, tell your community that you are fasting. That's why I love when we come on and we see the community members and we share with each other what's going on. One of the things I love is sharing with you that I'm fasting. Right? You get to see the numbers, you get to see what the blood sugars are, you get to see the ketones. Right? So that's accountability for me. So find a group, join our group, find a community. We have our community meetup coming up here in just a little while. You can sign up for that. Come in. We sit, we talk, we find out what's going on with each other. What successes have we had? Where are some challenges? Right? All of that happens in community. And when you are in community, then you set yourself up for success. So why preparation is key, and what do? You want to get lots of rest, stay hydrated, reduce stress, and eat nutrient-dense meals as we're moving towards the fasting space. And so that is the bulk of preparing. Right? If you do those things, if you follow those things, then you are preparing yourself and you're setting yourself up for success. So the next phase is actually the fasting phase. So you've already looked at it, you've picked the type of fast you're going to do, you've educated yourself on it, you're hydrated, you understand the triggers, all those things are in place, and now we're getting into the fast. And I tend to talk about fast, and most people will talk about fast in 24-hour blocks, and I do that as well because I say I'm fasting for 24 hours, 48 hours, 72 hours, 96 hours, da da da. But here we're going to do it a little differently. We're going to segment it a little shorter, and we're going to talk about 6 hours, roughly. Right? There's some that are longer, but about 6 hours. So when we stop eating, when we finish eating, that is actually called the postprandial phase. This is the phase where blood sugars are high because the body is absorbing, is breaking down the food that you just ate, and it's trying to put those into the cells. So the blood sugar is high, energy level is high because you have ready access to those carbs, and your insulin level is high because insulin had to come out to deal with all the carbs that we're eating and all the things that are coming out of the food. Okay? So postprandial, that's the postprandial phase, the 0 to 6 hours. So if you currently are doing you sleep for 6 hours and you wake up, you're in the postprandial phase. People say to me, well, I didn't eat anything since last night at 7 o'clock, and it's now 7 o'clock in the morning, or it's now 3 o'clock in the morning. I say, well, yeah, you are in the process of heading to fast, but this is still the postprandial period, right? That food is not totally absorbed yet. It's not totally digested yet. Okay? And then if we look at the next 6 hours, 6 to 12 hours, this is the early fasting stage. This is where, insulin levels are beginning to decrease. Glucagon levels are starting to rise because remember, they go in opposite directions. When insulin goes up, glucagon goes down, and when insulin goes down, glucagon goes up. Okay. So glycogenolysis, so breakdown of glycogen from the liver is happening, and so that we are now transitioning, or we're using up the sugar that's in our body, and we're getting ready here in a little while to transition from using sugar, using carbs, to actually using fat. Energy levels begin to fluctuate as the body is absorbing and the sugar is going into the cells or going into the liver or getting packaged and being sent out to the fat cells. And so the energy levels are starting to go down, and so energy can begin fluctuating during this early fasting stage. And then we transition to using fat. So in the 12 to 18 hours, glucose levels continue to drop, and the body is now saying to everything, all the components, hey, I need fat. So give me fat so that I can burn that and create ketones. Okay. The liver starts gluconeogenesis. This is making sugar from non-carb sources, right? So we're making sugar from non-carb sources. Ketones levels are low because we've not yet flipped in earnest to burning fat. And so people may feel this as a dip in energy, right? So we're starting to have energy go down as we prepare for ketones, and people will feel that as a dip. If you're not rested, that is so much more pronounced, right? You can tell, oh my God, it feels like I'm losing energy. Once again, if you're not rested, that becomes a lot more pronounced. And then 18 to 24 hours, this is ketosis. The ketosis is beginning. So your body is now saying, yeah, glycogen is gone, insulin levels are dropped, I've used up what's in the stores that are in the liver, and let's go ahead and let's start burning fat and converting the fat to ketones. Autophagy starts during this period. And remember, autophagy is that amazing process that the body has of cleaning up, of recycling broken, damaged, unused, misshapen parts of itself, and it takes those, it recycles them, brings them back as new components, right? So one of the benefits we talked about during our check-in yesterday was immunity, cancer, longevity. All of those are benefits, and autophagy plays a significant role in all of those. So autophagy is starting here. And of course, the initial stages of mental clarity, as the body gets a more stable, cleaner source of energy, and that's what it's using. And the brain actually likes ketones, so it's like purring along like a well-oiled machine. So that's the 18 to 24 hours. And then if we move on to our 24 to 30 hours, so we have now gone into fat adaptation. So the body is now in earnest burning fat and converting it to ketones so that we have that source of energy. Okay? So we have a significant increase in ketones. This is where we get the fat oxidation. This is where we get tremendous weight loss because now we're churning through that fat, right? We're just burning it up and converting that to ketones so the body can process. And of course, the energy levels are very stable. Think of this as transitioning from in a hybrid car, burning gas to using a battery. So akin to that. Right, and so now we've gone from burning gas, which is glucose, and we're now burning ketones for energy, and our energy levels are much more stable. Right, and so remember, as we go through the process, fasting is more than just not eating. So preparing for the fast, very good. Right, we want to hydrate, we want to manage our stress, we want to make sure we're rested, we want to eat nutrient-dense meals. We get through the fast. We want to make sure we're hydrated. We want to make sure we're rested, right? We're not eating, but we're making sure that we are remaining hydrated, like I just said. And then we want to break the fast. And breaking the fast is very important because if we don't do a good job of breaking the fast, we are undoing a lot of the things, a lot of the benefits that we got during the fast itself. Okay, so we want to make sure that we're setting ourselves up for success. So how do we break the fast? How do we get through the fast? And some tips that we want to keep in mind as we get into that space. One, we want to monitor blood sugars. I'm going to say, I tell everybody, if you're in the metabolic space, if you're interested in working on blood pressure, cholesterol, diabetes, polycystic ovarian syndrome, and any of those things, monitoring blood sugars is very important, because you want to know, what does food, what does this activity, what are these things doing for my body, right? You want to monitor it and checking blood sugars. I have, and you guys know, let's go back here, and yeah, so I've got two, right? I've got one monitor here, and I've got one monitor here. So I have two glucose or continuous monitors that I use. Part of the reason I use them is because you guys are here, and I get to show you what they look like, okay, or what they are. So those of you who are out there, there is an over-the-counter version. If you're not on insulin or diabetic, if you're not diabetic and on insulin, many insurance companies won't pay for it. So there's an over-the-counter version that you can buy that's called Stello. It is from Dexcom. There's one that Freestyle, the Abbott folks, are coming out with. I haven't seen it yet, but I'm supposed to get one so I could try it. All right, so monitor blood sugars. Number two, portion control. Often, it's not that we are eating the wrong thing that's causing the problem, is that we're eating too much of whatever that thing is. It is possible to eat healthy food and eat so much that it causes a problem. Yep. So one of my things that I eat are nuts, right? So nuts, healthy fat that we talk, they got some protein in there. But when I get those nuts, cashews, almonds, I just I eat and eat and eat and eat and eat. Of course, that's a problem, because you can eat enough of those stuff to cause blood sugars to go crazy. And of course, not to mention the calories and the weight and the whole thing, right? So yeah, so portion control. And then eat slowly. If you eat slowly, you tend to eat less, because you're savoring, you're being mindful, right? Mindful eating. You are enjoying. You're spending time in the now, and you're not just rushing through to do something else. And when you rush through, you don't enjoy the food as much, and so you tend to want more food, want more snacks later. But if I'm sitting and I'm eating, I'm enjoying this food right now. When I get up, if I've been mindful and I've done a good job not on my phone while I'm eating or doing a crossword puzzle or anything else, then I'm satisfied and I tend to eat less. Right? So eat slowly. And then avoid sugary, highly processed foods. And this goes back to what I said as we were coming into the fast. If you are eating high processed, high sugary foods, that's going to stimulate the appetite, because insulin has to come out. And so if you break your fast with something that's high sugar, high carbs, you're going to struggle through the next 24 to 36 hours, because your appetite is going to be stimulated. And if you are satisfying it by eating more high processed, high carb foods, then your post-fast time is going to be very difficult. All right, so we want to make sure that we are starting slow in this process. I have to put myself in there, because if I'm not careful, I can undo some of the benefits that I had during the fast itself, right, in terms of spikes in blood sugars and weight and so forth. All right, so those are some tips that I want you to pay attention to. And then hydration. Remember, hydration is so important. So it shows up in preparing for the fast, it shows up in fasting, and it shows up in breaking the fast. So hydration. When we get into the fast, and when we come out of the fast, most of us are going to be a little dehydrated if we're not careful, right? And even when we're careful, like I said, if we're not eating, we tend not to think about drinking, particularly if you're doing some of the extended fasts. Okay, so water, good option. Always start there. Coconut water, unsweetened, of course, a natural electrolyte replenisher. Herbal teas, once again, you can do those. And because you are doing it post-fast, the same things that you get when you're going into the fast in terms of the calm and relaxation, you get that here as well. And so it helps in the post-fast period to kind of calm you when you drink these drink teas. Okay? So hydration. Protein is important because just like fat, which we'll talk about next slide, just like fat, protein helps to keep you fuller longer. And it helps to blunt the absorption of the carbohydrates that are in the food that you're eating. So pair it, protein and fat together, and eat your carbs, then you don't get as big a spike and you feel fuller for a longer period of time. Right? So types of protein, of course, eggs, a good option. Chicken or turkey breast, okay, good option for protein. And then tofu or tempeh, if you're vegetarian or if you're vegan, you can use those as options. But any of those are good, even if you're not vegan and you want to try tempeh. We do a lot of tofu in our house, right? Because we do lots of different ways of tofu. But we do a lot of tofu here, and we like it, and it's a good protein option for you. And then, of course, fats, healthy fats. Um, there you see avocados, and several shows ago or several episodes where I did my check-in, I use avocado. I love avocados. Okay, so I can sit and just eat them. So I need to actually probably try to use more avocados in breaking my fast because I go to nuts, which is the next thing. So nuts. When I eat nuts, I go nuts, right? And so I've got to be careful with those, particularly cashews and almonds. Like I said, I have some peanuts that I have here that I got probably about a week ago, and I think three of the bottles are still unopened. So I like peanuts, but not like I like cashews and almonds. Okay, but they're good sources of healthy fats, and then of course seeds. Chia seeds, flax seeds. They have a lot of omega-3 fatty acids in them, so they're good, and they also have fiber. Okay, so seeds very good, and we're talking about how do we make sure that we maintain a good post fast, right? How do we break the fast in a good way? And of course, broths are always good. And when you are breaking the fast, you want to start slow. You want to use things that won't aggravate the GI tract. You want to use things that are easy to digest because remember, as you're fasting, your body's relaxing. Your GI tract is resting. And so if you come in and all of a sudden, particularly if you're doing some of the longer fast, come in and you just dump a bunch of stuff in there, then you're going to set yourself up for some difficulty, right? Whether it's nausea or increased elimination or abdominal pain, any of those things can come if we don't do a good job of getting in or getting out of the fast. If we just like sit down and we eat a 10-course meal, right? And that can happen if you're not careful because people, they're anticipating, hey, I've been fasting for so long, so when I eat, I'm going to, by God, I'm going to go at it, right? So that's not what we want. We want to still eat mindfully when we break the fast. Okay. All right. So vegetable broth, very good. You can use that. Bone broth, chicken broth, any of that is actually pretty good to use. And it satisfies you. And one of the things I like about broth, if you do it well, you can stay in ketosis for longer. So if you break the fast and you've not eaten a lot of high processed, high carb food, high sweet food, then you can actually delay the ketosis so you get some extra time in ketosis to burn fat, improve your insulin sensitivity, all autophagy, and all the things that we talk about that come with fasting. Okay, bone broth is what I typically use when I break my fast, when I use broth. And so here are some considerations. Number one, you want to choose foods wisely. Choose foods that will help maintain stable blood sugars while giving you nutritional value. You want to choose foods that are gentle on the GI tract. You want to do low glycemic index, right? And we said low glycemic index. These are things that are less than 50, glycemic index of less than 50. Lean proteins, healthy fats, and then, of course, make sure that you are hydrated. Make sure that you're hydrated. Yes? Okay? All right. Let's see. So that's what we want to do in a fasting. So preparing for the fast, breaking the fast, and then, of course, getting out of the fast. Very, very, very important. And how you break the fast can make or break the fast itself, Okay, so make sure that you're doing what you need to do to to be successful. All right, so let's hop over and a couple of things. So one, I've got my Keto Mojo. We're going to look at my ketones here in just a minute. But right below, you see my Dexcom Clarity Report. So let's hop over and let's take a look at that. And so here we are. You see my average blood sugar over the last last 14 days. It was 128. 128. I'm in target 85% of the time. Target 85% of the time. Target is 70 to 180. And my glucose management indicator, which is a surrogate or an estimate of my A1C, is 6.4. So if I were to get an A1C based on this, it will be 6.4. If I go and I change to 90 days, we'll see that my average blood sugar is probably 130-ish, 134, right? My glucose management indicator is a 6.5, and I'm in target 87% of the time, with target being 70 to 180. Okay, so very good numbers there. If I look at my daily graph, and so we started fasting a little over 2 days ago, and now 50, what did I say, 54, 48, 50, 51, 52 hours maybe of fasting. And so if I look at my graph, so we started fasting right in here, right around 128, 24 hours later, 97, 48 hours later, we're at 81. And so now we're down here, so 84 is where we are in terms of our blood sugar. Okay, so good numbers there. I love those. And so now let's take a look at my Keto Mojo, and let's see what my ketones are. Let's go ahead and get started. Let's go ahead and let's do this. So I'm going to pull this up. I'm going to start this up, and then we're going to sync. So if you think you know what my ketones are, go ahead and drop those in the chat. We had one of our community members in our check-in a couple of days ago that got it right on the money, right? The exact number. And drum roll, please. You ready? Okay. So my blood sugar was 88, and my ketones are 1.4. Okay, 1.4. So when we talk about ketones, and here's my graph. So the tan line that you see there, that is blood sugar. And the turquoise dashed line, those are ketones. And you'll see early on, as I ended my fast last week, and I started eating, my blood sugar went up. So it went from a 68 up to a 118, and my ketones went down. So from 3.1 went down to 0.8, and then down to 0.1. Right, we'll talk about what those are here in just a minute. But as my blood sugar rose, then my ketones went away. And then when I started fasting, right, notice that blood sugar went from 109, went down to 91, and then let's see if I can open this up a little bit. And then right there at 90, okay? And then even further, we went down to 88. So as my blood sugars have gone down, I want you to look at the ketones, right? So the ketones, which started down here, now they're rising. So it went from 0.1 to 0.6 to when I did my check-in yesterday to 1.0, and then now at 1.4. All right, so ketones and insulin can't be together. So when insulin comes out, because sugar is there, then the ketones go away. Because sugar signals that, hey, we don't want to break down any more fat, right? Not sugar, but the insulin. Sugar spikes, insulin spikes. When insulin comes, insulin says, hey, we don't want to store anymore, or we don't want to break down anymore. We need to start storing. And so ketones go away because the body stops breaking down fat. When we talk about ketones that are less than 0.5 are considered normal, and 0.5 to 1.5 considered nutritional ketosis. Above 1.5 is considered therapeutic ketosis. And so I'm right now in the nutritional, just on the inside of that. Right, we'll see what it does over the course of the next 24 hours. Now, For people who are maintaining, people who want to stay in ketosis, then you want ketones that are zero point 0.5 or higher. In fact, in this space, I tell people to check their ketones because I want it zero point 0.5 or higher because we're getting the fat burning and it's converting ketones to, or converting fat to ketones so that we can use that for energy. So I love when I see that. One of the questions people will have for me, though, is why, for heaven's sakes, are your blood sugars not lower? Right? They say, hey, you've been fasting for what number of hours, right? So 52, 53, 48, 72, 96. Why are your blood sugars not lower? You'll see that my blood sugar there is 79. And the blood sugar is not lower because the body still has access to make sugar. So triglycerides, when we break triglycerides down, triglycerides are a combination of something called glycerol and fatty acids. So when we break it down, the fatty acids go to make ketones, right? Free fatty acids. But the glycerol component goes to make sugar. And so even though I'm not eating carbs, the body still has the ability to create sugar, right? Okay, so 7.9, right? And so ketones, we want ketones to be 0.5 or higher as we are continuing in the space of metabolism and trying to put our diabetes in remission. And then, often I get people who talk to me and they say, I can't fast. I can't do that. I said, why not? They say, well, I'll get hungry. But I want to convince you that you have unlimited potential. You have the ability to chart your destiny when it comes to your health. You've done things in the past. You've made decisions. We all have, where it was not the best decision. But starting today, starting now, we have unlimited potential that we can access. And our goal is to access. How do we get into that? How do we access that potential so that we can set ourselves up for success? And that's given by the Triple E formula for success. We educate, we empower, and we encourage. We educate with the blogs that we do, the shows that we have, the podcasts. All of that is with the idea of education. Educating, give you a mindset change, a frame shift, if you will. Help you to see a different perspective. Help you to know that you have a growth mindset and not a fixed mindset. That all comes from education. And then we empower with the tools that we learn. So fasting is a tool. The HEAT model is a tool. The COPE model is a tool. All these are tools that we are using to empower ourselves to make change, giving ourselves the ability. If it's on paper, it's great. If you watch the video, it's great. But it doesn't come to life until you enact it, until you begin doing something to make it or give it power. So encourage. Every month we have a challenge. Join the community. Begin going through the challenges. They're your way of practicing, of using the things that we're learning in a practical way so that it becomes a second nature and it sets you up for success. And then we encourage with the community that you are part of, the community that you are making rich by coming and telling your story. Right? I love seeing when people are talking about the benefits that they're getting. Improved A1C, they lost weight, their doctor took them off certain medications because they didn't need it anymore. All of those are benefits. All of those are benefits of you accessing and tapping into your unlimited potential with the Triple E formula for success. Remember, there are things that push us. There are triggers that we have that will push us off of our eating plan, that push us in a direction that we don't want to go. And this is given by the HEAT model. Habits, emotions, access, and taste. Habits, emotions, access, and taste. So we eat not because we're hungry, but just because that's what we do. It's lunchtime. Everybody's eating, so I'm going to eat. I go to the movies, and at the movies you eat popcorn, so I'm going to get some popcorn, even though I'm not hungry. The routines that we've created in our lives are one of the things that push us, they trigger us to eat when we don't want to eat. Emotions. When you are angry, you are frustrated, you are depressed, you are whatever the emotion is, that emotion can plow through the decision you made that you're not going to eat or you're going to eat differently. So understanding the triggers, very important in combating them. And then we eat because of access. I've got stuff around me here that, well, not right here, but I've got stuff in the house that I can't keep around me. I don't bring cashews into the house anymore. Not a lot, right? So I'll eat some. I'll get some out there. Or like you saw, I bought a bunch of peanuts because I know if I bought cashews, it'll be gone, right? The entire thing would be gone, right? Because I've just right. That's one of my things. We eat because of access. We walk by that coworker's desk and we see the candy, we grab some, not because we're hungry, but just because it's there. We're going through our house. We get up out the study. We're going to the bathroom. We're getting up. We're going outside, and we pass by the kitchen. We see that bowl of fruits. We see that whatever is in the pantry, and we get in. We eat it, not because we're hungry, but because it is there. And then we eat because of taste. The perfect combination of fat, salt, and sugar. The bliss point is what it's called. Where you take it, you eat it, and you can't just have one. You say, hey, let me get some more. I'm coming back for some more of that. And we do not chase food. People say, oh, I just love the way that tastes. You may love it, but it's doing something for you, and we're chasing what the food is doing. It's calming us. It's putting us in a space, a memory that we remember. It's putting us in community sometimes, right? So we're chasing what it does. But taste, habits, emotions, access, and taste. When you think about diabetes, remember the pillars, right? We decrease insulin, we suppress the appetite, and we reduce sugar. If we do those three things, then we're well on the way to reversing our diabetes. Decrease insulin, suppress appetite, and reduce sugar. And a call to action, when you come, make sure you are joining the challenges. You're doing the challenges. Remember, on paper, it's just paper. It comes to life. You infuse it with power when you begin doing it. Every month we have a challenge. Every month you have a place that you can come and practice the things that you're learning right here on Dwain Woode MD. When you do come, tell your story. Claim your seat. Say, I'm fasting. I've had 72-hour fast or 48-hour fast, or my A1C is better. My doctor took me off of medication. I just got my blood work done, and here's what it is. Share your story with us because your story enhances the community. It enriches the community. It lets us know that we can do it because if you can do it, then I can do it as well. If you're having challenges, let us know that as well so we can rally around you. We can give you support so that you know you're not alone. And then we are aware that this community helps and we are not alone. And then tell somebody else. Bring somebody. Share it. Invite a friend. Let them know that there's a space where they can go because they have unlimited potential to chart the destiny of their health. Bring them over. Say, hey, let's go watch this show. Let's go do this playlist together. Right? You saw the playlist that I showed you earlier. All of those are with the intention of allowing you space where you can chart your destiny, where you can change, and you can access your own unlimited potential. Right? So come on over. Bring a friend. Bring a friend. Bring a friend. And as always, I'm excited. I'm always glad when I can be in the space with you, when I could share, where we can spend time talking about the successes we've had. If we've had some challenges, we can look at that as well. But in this space, we get to work together. We get to say, hey, let's do this together. Let's go in this space and let's reverse our diabetes. I want you to join me as we go throughout the rest of this week. Right, on Saturday at 9 p.m. Central, we have Video from the Vault. On Sunday morning at 6 a.m. Central, we have This Week in Review. And then we'll be back right here for Dwain Woode MD Live Monday at 7 p.m. Central. Make sure you get out there. Make sure you get involved. If you've not already done so, go ahead and sign up for our community meetup, which will be 7 p.m. Central right here. Well, not right here, but 7 p.m. Central with our community. Make sure you do that. It's the same link that we've used in the past, so make sure you get there. We'll be sharing that again on our show on Monday, and make sure that you connect with us. As always, this is Dr. Dwain Woode. That's Woode with an E. The E stands for endocrinology. Here on the channel, I educate, I empower and I encourage you to take charge of your health and your life, avoid complications, and go to the next level. And in this year, new you. Good night, everybody. We'll see you at our next show.